Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to episode 60. Wow, that's 60 episodes. And what a guest we've got this morning. Tanya Kunze is with us, and really a fantastic guest to celebrate episode 60 with us this morning. Very excited to get into the discussion with her and to talk about, bring a lot of the things together that we've been talking about on the show before, but on a new level and with new insights. And just she's a really phenomenal person, and I've really enjoyed chatting to her before the time and in the week before this. So really, really excited to introduce her to you and for you to see what she's all about and all the value that she's going to bring to this episode today. So I'm very grateful for being here. Thank you to all of you being here this morning live. It's very interesting this morning when I logged into the studio. It says to me that from today, the LinkedIn comments will also come into the stream, and I'll be able to sort of bring them onto the screen like I do with YouTube. So fantastic. Really, really excited about that. So I'll see how that works and if I can see anything there. Yes, and there are some comments from LinkedIn coming in. Fantastic. So good morning, everybody. Let me say good morning to Kobus and Terence. Very nice to have you all with us again this morning. Denise and Johan Vossler, Raymond. We've got Malcolm. Malcolm, man, we made the 400. We're on 404, I think, maybe 405. I'm not sure. I saw there was some notifications that came in on my phone while we were preparing. But yeah, good morning, Slanganani, Sunny Banani. We also got Gerald. Gerald, welcome. First time I've seen you here. Good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Tinas and Razan and Shahida, Ian, Neil, Arun, Stephen, Chris. Yo, there's so many people. Let me show you. There we go, LinkedIn. Welcome to YouTube, LinkedIn. It's awesome. But welcome to everywhere. Well, at least welcome onto the screen. I'm just not actually welcome to YouTube because the software that I use is called StreamYard, and it's a completely separate piece of software that just happens to stream to both LinkedIn and YouTube at the same time. But now it's fantastic. I can say hi to you guys, which I could never do. So, Salome, good morning. Hichu and Gary, good morning. Welcome back. We've got Elmin Lottering in the house, and then Carol. You see, there's all the people that you've always, like, if you were watching this on YouTube, you were always hearing these people's names, but you could never see what they look like. Well, here they are for you. And there's Justin. Good morning, Justin, and Johan Kluter. Johan Oosthuizen, who was on the show yesterday. So it was a good one. Not yesterday. When was it? On Monday. Sorry, the day before. And welcome back, Johan. Good morning, Kevin. Very nice to have you with us. I was wondering if I was going to see you here this morning. So Kevin was the one that put me in touch with Tanya, and she graciously accepted. And we're both very excited to be here this morning. So Casper and Carl van Vieren, goeiemorgen, good morning. Yeah, there we are. Now I don't have to jump in between, the sort of the computer and my phone to sort of talk to everybody on LinkedIn. So I'm very grateful for that. And so I want to get into the conversation with Tanya. So I'm not going to do too many things this morning. Just as always, just some housekeeping stuff. Please remember to subscribe, or connect with me on LinkedIn. You can do both. You're more than welcome to do that. But please subscribe to me on YouTube, to the channel. There's a whole host of things coming that we're working on that's going to be outside of the live streams, but the live streams are continuing every day from Monday to Saturday. So really excited about that, to continue with this. Some nice ideas in the pipeline. Please give us some love, like, share, tell everybody about it. Please do that. It helps us get the word out there. We've really grown since we started 60 days ago, well, more than 60 days ago. But we started a week before lockdown happened, and we're still going strong. So please help us get the word out there, and then also interact, guys. This is a really fantastic opportunity to ask Tanya questions, and I know we like to sort of give our opinions and share and just echo what people are saying, and that's fantastic. I love that. But also, please, if you've got a question, ask it. We'll get to the questions at the end, and we will surely answer that for you with the greatest of pleasure. So let's do that. All right. There we go. All righty. Good stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Tanya. She's an author. So she's written 2 books, one in conjunction with somebody and the other one on her own. And I know she's busy with the 3rd book. She's also a highly sought after international keynote speaker, and she's a thought leader. And you'll hear when she speaks why that is. she's one of the most prominent speakers on neuroscience-based conscious business development. And that's like, I'm from the Free State, so it's like real English. But all it says is that she uses neuroscience to understand people. And she's come up with this thing that there's not just like 4 different types of salespeople. There are like 48 different types of salespeople. And I think we've spoken about this before as well. And we're not going to get into that in the show, but I do just want to mention this, that if you want to go see more about what it is that she does, is there's these 48 profiles, and she's spoken about this on Matt Brown's podcast, and she's spoken about this on TV and a few other places. So go check that out, because there's lots to learn from that. And often we feel like, I'm not a salesperson, but you are. And she's got a very nice way of sort of positioning that. And we've also spoken about that before, that we need to look at that. She was chosen as one of the top 40 most inspiring women shaping South Africa in 2019, which is phenomenal. She's had her own show on CNBC, which was called Healthy Business, where she interviewed, people. And it was all about, the benefits of having a healthy business. And she doesn't not only have all this experience, she's got a lot of qualifications that backs us up. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, I want to say, put your hands together, alone there in your living room, and say welcome to Tanya Kunze this morning. Tanya, welcome to Virtual Coffee with Francois.
Good morning, Francois, and good morning to everyone out there, the ones that I know, Gerald and Kevin and Mark. Hello, everybody out there as well.
Fantastic. I'm glad there's some people that knows you already. I think there's maybe a large part of my audience that don't know you, and that's always the exciting thing for me, is if I can introduce phenomenal people to my audience and my community, or our community. And it's not just mine, but it's such a pleasure for me to be able to do that, and it's really a privilege to have you with us. I know you're extremely busy. And everything that's going on at the moment, and you're also like rolling out new things, and you're busy studying again, and there's so many things happening in your life, Tanya. But I mean, in your own way, like what is Tanya all about? What is it that you do, and who do you do it for, and what makes you tick?
Well, I have a very different way of seeing the world, and I love to explore new ideas, and I've got one of those brains that just question everything. I remember a friend of mine once told me when I was about 7, I went to his warehouse, and it was just why? Everything was just, I must have been a very annoying child. And I just have an inquiring mind, and I never take things as a status quo. So I want to know what makes it tick, what's behind it, what's underneath it, and I want to figure it all out. So I started exploring the brain and figuring out how all of this works. And that's what I'm all about. I'm about finding out new and different things, and then sharing that and teaching that with the world.
It's I always like, and one of the topics that I've actually written down, because I make a list of topics that I want to talk about to people. And one of the things I was thinking about was actually, how can you be more curious? I think that's really something that we lose. As a child, you are very curious, but it's always like, it's fantastic for me to see how people keep that curiosity, and how they just, they just never lose it. And then most other people just like couldn't care anymore. It's just like, well, I've never asked, how does this thing look on the inside? How does my phone look? How does it work? And it's always like, if you sit down and you think about it, it's actually phenomenal how people come up with these things. And I think it's the people that stay curious and they want to know how things work that are able to innovate, and they're able to do things in a different way and that kind of thing. So I want to commend you on that for keeping that curiosity and for going further and learning about it. Talk to me just quickly before I get into some of the things I want to ask you about specifically. So we talked about neuroscience-based conscious business development. What is that? I tried to sort of translate that into normal English form for myself, but I mean, what is that in essence? What is neuroscience-based conscious business development? Because there's a lot of words in that sentence.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let me start with neuroscience. So neuroscience essentially works with how the brain impacts the body and the energy. So you've got these 3 aspects of self, which lean into, I believe we're going to go into that in a bit more detail just now, but essentially it's the impacting of the cognizance of the mind in the corporate space. Now, the interesting thing is we were never taught about ourselves at school. And I do a huge course on introspection because there's so many aspects we don't know about how we operate. And in essence, the soft skills within a corporate space are incredibly pertinent and have a dramatic impact on the financial bottom line. So we employ people. People have the ability to have a bit of a robotic tendency. And when we manage to work with people in a cognitive perspective, and we look at, let's say, the cognitive neuroscience, which I'm busy studying at the moment, which leans into robotics, humans are not that different. But where we have a differentiating factor is in our inspiration and our motivation and our passion. So those are the underpinners which then take companies from good to great.
Okay, so that's my brain is spinning. Not because it's like it's just like it's amazing. I love these things, and like I'm getting very curious about all of this. And I've heard quite a number of people speak, obviously, about the different parts of the brain and how everything works and how we make decisions, and where feelings are coming from, and just what is driving our behavior and those kind of things. But I think one thing, and that's why I titled this whole sort of session today about the power of positivity. Because it's specifically in the times that we find ourselves in. This is during the time of the pandemic, and a lot of people are thinking about, like just trying to stay positive. Some people are just like have maybe given up, or some people just in limbo. They don't know exactly where they are. So I sort of want to bring that flavor to this episode and talk a little bit about, what is the power of positivity, and you talk about that there is, sort of, if you want to live an abundant life, and actually you talk about if you consciously have a blissful life, is sort of the words that you use. There are 3 core bodies that you talk about. And, I want to get into a little bit of that. What are these 3 core bodies? And you talk about the fact that they need to be in alignment. So can we get a little bit into that part?
Absolutely. So the 3 core bodies are your mental body, your physical body, and your energetic body. And very often they are very out of alignment. And that's where people start feeling ill. So there's something called psychoneuroimmunology, which is abbreviated as PNI, which is all about that balance in one's life. But let's just go back to the core bodies for a moment. We are very focused on the physical body, which is only one of the 3 aspects. The physical body being healthy, the physical body being exercised, the appearance of the physical body. And a lot of us spend a lifetime really just thinking that how we look and feel physically is what life is all about. But there's 3 other aspects to us. So the other 2 that we have would be the mental body. So your thoughts. A good friend of mine speaks about thoughts are real forces, and that's Robin Banks, and it leans into the John Kehoe methodology. And thoughts are definitively real forces because they're an energy in the brain that you literally loop and give energy to. But thoughts are underpinned by the energy body, which is what you feel. Now, if we're out of alignment, mind, body, and energy, that is where stress occurs. And obviously that's where neuroscience starts becoming an aspect. When we look at psychoneuroimmunology, or PNI, we start looking at the balance of different areas within that life. So the work, the personal, and the interpersonal. Now, when we get congruence between mind, body, energy, and work, personal, interpersonal, now you have somebody who's very balanced, and they can literally take whatever hits them. And they have a much stronger resilience in life in every capacity.
Sure. Okay. So, because that was my question also, is like, if I align this, I mean, what do we mean by alignment? How do we actually go about, what does it mean if these things are aligned?
Okay.
It's like, okay, so they need to be in alignment, but when do I know these things are in alignment?
It's an excellent question. All right. So the body never lies. And if you have a lie detector test, unless you're a ninja, you are going to have a 97% chance of it being accurate. And why is that? Because when you think a thought or you posed a question, your body is going to have a physiological reaction to that question. And you're going to either have a consortium of hormones that get released, and that's going to in turn get your heart rate to go faster, or it's going to have some kind of physiological impact on your body. Now, long-term impact like that of stress obviously starts causing illness in the body. And what we want to do is we want to try and keep your thoughts on track and healthy. We want to try and keep your energetic reaction to those thoughts on track and healthy. And in turn, by default, your body becomes the mirror of that. So let's say, for example, I'm a diabetic, which I'm not, but if I was, and I thought the word chocolate, I'm going to have a physiological reaction to that thought based on my energetic response to it, because it's typically something that could impact me negatively. If I'm not a diabetic and I think the word chocolate and I happen to love chocolate, which I do, I get a whole lot of good hormones going out there and my body has a lovely reaction to it. I'm not saying that the ultimate impact of eating the chocolate will be good for me, but my thought form around it will be good for me. And it applies to everything. So let's say, for example, we think about the word money. Money can have a very positive impact on somebody's physiology if they think it, because they have a good, healthy relationship with it. But if somebody's stressing and worrying about money, every time they think about money, they're going to have a physiological reaction to money or the thought thereof based on the energetic reaction to it, and then they're out of alignment. So then they start getting ill every time they have an association, and then naturally the body starts pushing away from it and the mind starts pushing away from it. So when you start having a negative reaction to a thought, physiologically and energetically, you start pushing that topic away from you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, I want to get into sort of the power of thoughts as well, because I mean, that's exactly what you're now sort of talking about, is that your thoughts have, it means it's got a physical impact on what we feel. And then also, does it then translate into how we act? You know, what we actually do at the end of the day, because I mean, I may get this reaction from, like, I hear the word money. Some people get very excited. Yeah. Some people go like, you know, so does those kind of thoughts that leads to those kind of feelings basically is like, you know, how you react to it basically. But does that lead to me to, or does that influence my actions? I think is the question I want to ask.
100%. So I'm going to lean into it from a variety of aspects. So the one is, when we go into a state of negativity, we elicit the fight, flight, or freeze from the amygdala and surrounding areas in the brain. And we're very good at being negative. We're very good at being fearful. It's made us survive as a species. And it's been around for millions of years, the ability to be fearful. And you're not clever if you're fearful. You know what I mean? It's unless it's going to literally save you from the dinosaur that doesn't exist anymore. It's a lot of the things we fear don't exist anyway and will probably never happen. So when we go into a state of fight, flight, or freeze, we send out a whole lot of debilitating hormones and our bodies start reacting negatively in that space. And we almost get blinkers. So if you imagine a child that's incredibly stressed and it's put under pressure and it's told, go now and find the red beanbag in the cupboard. And it runs to the cupboard and it looks inside and it has something called inattentional blindness. It will not see the red beanbag even if it's right in front of it. If the child is asked nicely and calmly and told, you know, just pop through to the cupboard, there's a red beanbag in the middle shelf, just go grab it for me. It goes, it sees it, it doesn't have inattentional blindness and brings it back. But that still applies to our lives today. Now, if you are, go and get the money, go and make targets, go and do this, and it's pressure and stress, and your boss is shouting at you, and the environment is noisy, and everybody's stressed, you get inattentional blindness. You're not going to see what's right in front of you. So physiologically, the thought you're having in association with the energy that you're feeling will derive the outcome. Do that perpetually. After 66 days, it becomes a habit. You become habitually stressed. And that's how it works.
Yeah, now why didn't you tell me this 10 years ago? So now I know I'm habitually stressed. Thank you for that, Tanya. so now I just want to say, I think my wife is enjoying this episode like tremendously, because this is the kind of stuff that she really loves, and to think about and to read about and to do that. So yeah, at least I know she's definitely getting a lot of value from this as well. And I see there is some comments and things, guys. I'll get to your comments at the end before we finish. So don't worry, I will go through all of them. Another question I want to ask: a lot of these things are sort of, you know, these different reactions, and I do want to still focus on the negative part of all of this. So if I think about the negative thoughts, you know, is there a difference between, because a lot of people is going to say, you know what, I'm not, and also let me just ask this first. Is there a difference between, like, I am a negative person, okay, I'm just negative that's my personality, Or because I constantly think negative thoughts, that makes me a negative person at the end? No, that sounds a little bit, but is it that? Or on the other hand, there's people that will say, listen, I'm not negative, I'm just being realistic. So where is that line between when do you realize, like, listen, well, your thoughts are actually holding you back because it's your thoughts that's negative. It's not being, yes, we need to be realistic, but is there a line between those two? And where is that line?
Okay, these are excellent questions. I'm loving them. Thank you very much. So let's address the one that we've spoken about as I'm just a realist. So my father's Austrian, and he sounds a bit like Schwarzenegger, and I'm not actually even going to try and imitate him. But, he will come to me and he'll be like, take your rose-colored glasses off. And I'm a realist. And the thing is that when life, it's your reality, it's happening to you in this moment. But what we have to realize is when we're in a now moment, it's all we have. And it's a few seconds, if that, of your now moment. Your memories in the past are all blurry. So if you imagined your most epic moment in your life and you go there and I say to you, right, we're in that moment, this is the best time of your life. I want you to tell me in the past, in that moment, how did your left toe feel? And the people look at me and they laugh because they can't answer that question because it's a hazy memory of what it is. So your past memories are just hazy. You don't have you can't go back there. You can't interact with them and you can't change what happened. Now we imagine the future. And there again, it's a hope of what it could be. It's a perspective. It's a perception. And you don't know what your left or right toe are going to feel like in the future either. But in this now moment, right now, you have the power to actually be cognizant of everything in your life. You do know what your left or right toe feels like. You do know what the exact temperature is in the room. You know what the exact colors are. You know how you're feeling in this moment fully. Even pain is forgotten in the past. So in this now moment, you have the ability to reprogram. Now, if we imagine that we are a little bit like computers, and I really do liken us a lot to computers, you can change your thinking pattern. Now, if you think something perpetually, you're going to create a habit. You're going to create a lifestyle, and you're going to start acting in a specific methodology. One of the fallacies as well is that it takes 21 days to create a habit. It doesn't. It takes 66 days to create a habit. And some habits, it might take a lifetime to create. Now, let's just say we decide that habitually, without thinking, I want to reach for a glass of water every hour on the hour, or like Discovery trying to make us do, stand up and walk around every hour on the hour. It's going to take you 66 days to create that habit. But like that, if you're having the same kind of negative, debilitating thought process, which is sending negative, debilitating hormones into your body and is coupled with an emotional reaction to that, you are going to start creating habitual linguistics around the environment that you're in. So if you're constantly speaking about negative topics, if you're constantly speaking about the news, if you're constantly speaking about the downside of life, that's what you're going to start becoming aware of. That's what you're going to see more of, and it becomes your life experience. So my answer would be, if you want to change your life, you've got to change what you're thinking about, listening to, experiencing, reading, talking about, your whole representational system, your mind, body, and energy, and the way you involve yourself in life from an audio, visual, or kinesthetic perspective needs to shift now so that in the future you start creating a different environment in your life.
Yes. So now the next question is then, but when do I know that I need to make this change? That how do I realize that this is actually, I'm finding myself in a negative space? Because for some people, it's their reality. It's just what it is. It is normal to them, and not, sometimes you do, like, things happen and you think like, well, maybe I need to change the way I go about things and that. But a lot of people are in their comfort zone. They're in that rut. They're in that space where that's their life, and sometimes people will say, well, is this what my life has become? That may be a very clear indication that you need to change something. But at the end of the day, it's like, are there specific things that you can do to sort of audit your life to say, well, I need to do something about this to get to that realization that things are maybe not as great as they could be?
Well, I've got a very simple answer to that. If you are complaining about your life, about any aspect of your life, then you're in a negative mindset. So if you're complaining that your body is not fit enough or healthy enough or in shape enough, or you're complaining that your life is not where you want it to be, it's an indicator, and it's the first indicator that you need to do something about it. Now, yes, people often have existing predispositions to negativity, to depression, and it can be a psychological aspect of that person. But I don't think that there's as many people that are calling into that as being, I'm depressed or I'm in a negative mindset, really do have a psychological condition prevailing. So yes, there are people, and I'll never take away from that because I've seen it and experienced it and worked with it with people through my coaching experiences in corporate, where I've referred them through to psychologists and psychiatrists for assistance and for help. But there are a large amount of people that I've managed to help shift that are just in a negative mindset, and complaining about their lives is the beginning of it. If you're feeling negative, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling stressed, the probability is that you can do something about it. And if you can't do something about it yourself, potentially a coach can assist you with something like that. And if it's more in a psychological space, then going to a psychologist or psychiatrist there's no shame in it. And I hope that is where society starts moving.
Yeah, I mean, that's where things started changing for me, is that like at the end of 2014, I went to somebody that was sort of positioned as a coach, but it was actually somebody that was more of a psychologist than anything else. And, I went there for 10 sessions, and that is where things started changing. You got to go sort these things out. And I'm not ashamed to tell people that I've done that, because I found myself in one of the deepest holes I've ever been in. And I've been through a couple of holes in my life, and it's necessary to go and do those things. But yeah, you need to be ready for it as well. I think it's not just a case of, okay, I'm going to go do this now. It's like, because it's a mental thing, because people have negative connotations to doing things like that. And it's almost like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And it's absolutely not the case at all. So, I mean, all of these, like your thoughts, particularly if they're negative or those kind of sort of situations, how does this impact on my stress levels? Because I mean, as I said, you just said to me, I'm habitually stressed. But I mean, these thoughts, how does that relate into stress? Just thoughts overall, whether they're positive or negative. What is the impact on stress levels?
Okay, well, to give you an example, if you are having perpetual negative thoughts that make you feel anxious, so you get that feeling in your stomach, or you may even have, sweaty palms, or you may even just feel like your whole body or physical structure is just really uncomfortable and feeling stressed, you will then produce one of the hormones which would be debilitating, which would be something called cortisol. And cortisol has a myriad of negative knock-on effects. And some of them would be, for example, irrational eating. So it could be that you starve yourself or that you eat too much, irrational hunger. It also affects your sleep. So you may be having less sleep than you should be having, or you have an inability to sleep because you're feeling stressed. And lack of sleep then has a whole consortium of other negative knock-on effects. So, the depression and negative self-image all stem from the original cortisol production. So cortisol is a little bit like having cortisone in your body. So you could start feeling sluggish and bloated. And when you have perpetual negative hormones being released in your body, it starts affecting your mind and your brain. So you start getting brain fog, and you start thinking negatively, and you start feeling comfort in the negative space. And then conversely, when you are thinking positive thoughts and you actually getting that feeling of excitement, it opens up a periphery where you take those blinkers off and you actually start seeing life differently. So inattentional blindness is with your negative, and the lack of inattentional blindness is with the positive. And you start seeing opportunities that other people wouldn't be seeing. So if you've got, for example, somebody in business that's incredibly successful, and they're leaning into the positive hormone, what will happen is they are going to be seeing life very differently. So they walk in the morning and they see the opportunity that's in front of them, and then they've got the energy to take that opportunity. When someone is in a very negative mind space and they're sending out all these negative hormones into their physiology, they feel sluggish, They have the blinkers on, they don't see the opportunity. And even if they did, they might have a belief that they can't do it. So I always say negative, I can't, positive, I can. And why I'm pointing to different parts of my head is that they're in two different parts of your brain. So it's about where in your brain are you thinking should be the question you're asking someone, because that will determine the outcome of the same environment. It's a different way of living.
Wow, yeah. So you're giving me personally a lot of food for thought and things that I need to go figure out after this. Because now I've got another question. Like, so could it be that you are acting positively and that you come across as positively and that others perceive you as positively and you say positive things, but in actual fact, your brain is thinking something exactly the opposite?
Absolutely. And that's why you've got to do a lot of introspection, because I mean, if we take so many people that, I'm trying to think of his name now, very, very positive comedian, and he committed suicide, and I just can't remember his name, it just escapes me. And, you get so many people who think, wow, they were so positive, they were so happy, I can't believe it, what happened? And it can be a front that they're putting out to the world, but they suffer in silence. And that's why I'm saying, it's about introspection. It's about looking at yourself and going, this is really who I am. And this is what life's about. And I spoke about authenticity the other day. I did a little video, just post one of the podcasts I'd done where my dogs were going completely insane, and I've got two pugs and they were snorking and they were pushing squeaky toys, and I was like, oh my word, this is going to be a very funny podcast. It was recorded, so I don't want it. And I got over 11,000 views of that particular one because it was authentic. And I think what we've got to start realizing is we have to start being real. We have to start being authentic. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to feel stressed. It's okay to be negative. But let's do something about it. We don't want to have that whole, oh, I'm so negative, and then become the victim and then revel in victim, because you're not doing anybody or yourself any good. And I often say to people, if you're offloading all your negativity on your best friend, you're not being a best friend, because energy is contagious as much as viruses. And I say to people, and maybe it's a bit inappropriate, but I say to someone, if you know that you've got the flu, for example, and you sneeze on someone, they'll be terribly uncomfortable with that because you're giving them an infection. But if you go to someone and you offload all your negative drama, emotion, and energy on that person, what are you doing? You're giving them, you're infecting them with your negativity. You're paying it forward, just like you're paying forward a positive reaction to something. So you need to be very conscious and very aware of what you're offloading, but you've also got to deal with that stuff. So we need to be taught how to deal with our negative emotions, how to dissolve them before we offload them. And journaling is a phenomenal way to do that, because, I often joke and I say back in the day of the Vikings, because I watched the Vikings and old Ragnar. So if you went up to Ragnar back in the day and you went, Ragnar, today, here's my sick note. I don't really feel like attending battle. I'm not really wanting to go to the local druid to figure out what's wrong with me. They'll just put you out of your misery, right? In today's times, it's the same thing if you don't go to a coach, a social worker, a psychologist, or a psychiatrist, because we need help. There's too much going on in our heads. We need to get it out. So journaling, exercising, eating healthy, getting rid of the noise that's up there is critical. We can't just go from day to day only worrying about the physical body.
Yeah, no, that's, yeah. It's there's so many things racing through my head currently. So I'm just like, obviously I'm thinking about this from my own personal perspective a lot as well, and I hope that everybody's doing that as well, because that's where the power is about this conversation that we're having. Is let's take this time to sort of, how does this apply to me? Does it apply to me? And chances are very well that yes, it is applying to me. And there's a lot of things that I need to go and think about, and sort of, as you say, like journaling, or even if you just record yourself just speaking, just get the stuff out. Because I think that's definitely a big problem, where we walk around with these things, and you might speak to your spouse, and you may speak to your partner and your friends and your, but there's also a level of things that you're not saying. There's always like this barrier where you don't say everything probably. And those are the things that keeps on, and they aggregate over time. They just build up and build up and build up, and it becomes like old oil in a machine, I think. So we need to look at that and get it out there. So even if you're just speaking to yourself, but I think saying things out loud or writing things down makes a big difference, from that point of view. And sometimes you answer yourself while doing that. You may have walked around with a question for years and you don't know what the answer is, and just by seeing it or hearing it yourself, it's like, oh, okay, but wait. And that it's not very Mark, wait, there's more. Maybe just wait, there's an answer here. But yeah, you alluded earlier, sorry, Tanya, you alluded to the power of being in the moment and really experiencing the moment right now. I want to talk a little bit more about the power of now, and specifically, like you spoke about the past and the future, and we've all seen these memes where they say, you know what, you can't control the future, you can't change the past, so you got to live in the now. But I mean, why is the now so powerful? I want to get a little bit more into that.
Well, if you imagine that we're a program, the now is where it all happens. So my son he's an app developer. He's created an app called Lazybones, which is all about how to create habits in your life and to track them. And through that, I've got to understand a little bit of the code. And then that my little boy, Tommy, is a gamer. So he plays a lot of games. And I sort of watch this environment and I see it unfolding because it's our future. And in a game, when you're playing, no matter where you move your avatar, the programmer has pre-programmed the potential opportunity for that avatar to go into. And I find that quite amazing because that applies inextricably to our lives too. It doesn't matter what direction you decide to go in, there's always going to be the code written for you to be able to experience life. And if we look at the now moment, it's where all of those decisions happen. So what you decide to do today, the habits you decide to create today will manifest and unfold within the next 66 days to forever, whatever the lifetime or framework is. But if you do whatever you did today for the rest of your life, you're going to get what you've always had. So, I think Einstein made that quote or thereabouts. So we need to realize that what we do right now in this moment, what we do today becomes our life. And this now moment's critical because if you put it off for tomorrow, procrastinators unite tomorrow. And it's never going to happen. So we need to start now, in this now moment, and say, I'm taking charge of my physical body. I am going to start the habit of drinking water, eating healthy, eating smaller meals, doing whatever it is that you feel you need to do. I'm taking control of my brain. Every time I see the color red, I'm going to stop and say, what am I thinking? Start becoming aware of my perpetual looping thoughts. I'm going to change the conversations I have. When someone tries to tell me something negative about the news or environment or myself or whatever it might be, I'm going to stop them. And I'm going to go, you know what? I'm not having that conversation today because I'm changing my life. And all of these things relate back to your energy and how you feel. And when you make these changes in the now moment, you're going to start feeling better about yourself, about your thoughts, about your life, and you're going to start presenting yourself with different hormones that are going to be released, which have different reactions in your body and help you have an ultimately different life experience. And it's so simple.
Yeah, it is. And, one of the things that I think you and I spoke about before the time was as well, and this was so powerful, and it was like an moment for me. And it was like just something like, okay, I've always said that, but I never sort of really like understood why. But, have you ever been like you've arranged like 4 weeks in advance? We're talking about this at the moment. When lockdown is done, we're going to have this massive party. We're going to braai and we're going to have people over and all things. So a friend of mine, he's talking about doing that. We want to plan this and it's going to be great. And like, you have this vision of exactly what's going to happen and how awesome this party is going to be, But then you do that party and it's great. It's not that it's bad or anything. It's like you decide you're going to go to some overseas concert. It's still going to be wow, But if that whole plan thing and the vision that you had and the time that you had to sort of conceive what this could be, but then versus doing the unplanned thing, like, have you ever, like, if you're watching this, like, have you ever been to like, okay, let's braai now, and then it wasn't planned or anything, and it turns out to be the best braai that you've ever had? If you're from overseas, it's a barbecue, but it's you just have this lovely time and it's been amazing and nothing was planned. It was all just in the moment and everybody just brought something and it was just, people didn't want to go home. and then you think like, but wow, how amazing was that? And it's like, it always feels like the unplanned stuff works out better than the planned stuff. I'm not saying always, that's a bit of an overstatement, but I mean, just that experience. Why is that different, Tanya? Why is it that the unplanned party is so much better than the planned one, usually?
That's another really brilliant question. You're making me think today. I love it. So I think it's got to do with internalizing patterns of your associative probabilities. And what would happen there is that, we sometimes try and escape from the realities of what we have, because life in general can be pretty hard, and there are a lot of things that are thrown at us all the time. And it's one big challenge after the next for a lot of people. And what happens is you have this vision of what it can be, and you blow it up in your mind to an unrealistic proportion of what it can be. So you'll shift up into more your neocortex or your prefrontal cortex, where it starts becoming this imagination zone. And the fascinating thing is that when you use your imagination, a very small area of your brain lights up. When you're meditating, a large portion of your neocortex and prefrontal cortex actually lights up. So when we're creating, we move into a more cognizant part of the brain, which is your creative aspect. And up there is very much your positive space. Now, because we are very pre-programmed into the negative, because the amygdala and the associated areas of the brain are very much that they're good at being negative, they're good at finding what's wrong, and judgment lives there. Now, if I could uninstall one human program, it would be the judgment program. Because what happens is you go into this environment, you've pre-planned this party or this braai, as that you've mentioned, and you have these internalized patterns of association and probabilities and possibilities, and you're thinking of all the good things, and then you start judging. And judgment takes you straight to the negative part of the brain, and then you start seeing what's wrong. Where if you do something and you haven't come from a place of judgment, you'll probably, because it's fun, switch into the creative and go into those aspects, and then you'll find the good in there. But both scenarios that played out in a good environment. You were having fun. It was your own self-judgment and your own aspect of negativity that made you see it negatively, where other people may not have seen it negatively.
Yeah, so there's two things that now pops into my mind. I have this vision of a bride, okay, because they tend to they know everything that hasn't gone right with their wedding, okay, but everybody else is having a fantastic time because they didn't know what to expect. There was no expectation set. All they want to know is that there's food, there's cake, and we're going to dance and just celebrate this wedding. But the bride is usually the one that gets into but that should have been like that, and it should have, the flower should have been one different shade of white, kind of whatever, and I think that links straight into that. And I'm sorry for picking a bride now, but that was the picture that came into my mind now. And then the other thing is, do you think it's the big reason for the difference in the two experiences is that in the unplanned one, you are truly in the now, you are really present. There is nothing else, because now what you're saying is you're judging, it's just a natural place because you set this picture of what you thought it was going to look like, and now you're looking at it, and is this playing out, yes or no? And that's where the judgment comes in. Whereas if there's no picture there, in terms of that, I'm just present, I'm just experiencing everything that's happening around me, and I'm just truly in the moment.
Brilliant interpretation of that. Yes, absolutely. Because the thing is, if we look at negatives, let's look at negative thoughts. So we've got fear, and we've got judgment, and we've got all these negative emotions that go through us, linking into the negative part of the brain, manifesting and working in that environment. When you are thinking in a positive space, you eliminate all those negatives. So you start looking at gratitude. So there's another big thing that's going on at the moment. Be grateful for everything, you'll get more of it. Well, why do you think you're going to get more of the good stuff when you're grateful? Because you're shifting into the positive part of the brain. People say have 3 positive thoughts versus 1 negative thought. Why? Because we're so much better at being negative. So we need to be 3 times better at starting to create positive neural networks. So if you're looking at the neural networks in the brain, you've got a huge amount of neural network happening in the negative part of the brain because we do it so much, and it gets indoctrinated from so many different parts of the brain. So if we take If we take the newspaper, for example, and we're reading it, there might be 1 or 2 positive stories and the rest are negative. So we reinforce that negative bias perpetually. Then you pick up the phone, you speak to a friend, they bring the negative story. It reinforces the negative. So our negative neurons in our brain are very, very well used, and those negative networks are very, very thick. Now, when we go into the positive part of the brain and we start looking, it's sometimes hard to go there, because what are we going to think about? How are we going to see our way through this? How are we going to find the positive? And people that habitually go to that part of the brain, they go there easily because they've got neural networks, or highways as I call them, to go to, instead of living in that negative highway permanently, which you keep going back to because it's a slow thought and it's easier to go there, so that's what we need to look at.
Yeah. All right. So then, changing my thoughts. So I want to get a little bit into that. Where do I start with changing it? Obviously, it's about the input. You already referred to this to say the input that you get, so surround yourself with different people, look at the things that you're reading and watching and listening to, and be cognizant of that. But like just practically, where can we start in terms of, changing these thought patterns once we realize that maybe I should be looking into this?
Well, a very nice way to start is to realize what your representational system is. So you get 3 types of representational systems definitively. There are other ways of taking the world, but let's look at these 3. You're either an audio, a visual, or a kinesthetic. So audio people would like audiobooks. They tend to listen to a lecture. They learn from an audio perspective. Then your visual people will read and take in information from that perspective, or they'll like to watch movies and that type of thing. Kinesthetic person likes to touch and feel, but they also like to feel emotionally. And then you can get an audio visual, or an audio kinesthetic, or a kinesthetic audio. And so that, and the reason that I've mentioned the 2 together is you can be, let's say, a little bit more kinesthetic than you are audio, a little bit more audio than you are kinesthetic. And when you figure out your representational system, you can then apply that to the learning in the world, and that can apply to taking in information. So for me, for example, if I'm an audio kinesthetic, so I want to listen to something. And if someone says to me, Tanya, look at me when I'm speaking to you, you just lost me, because I want to listen to you. I don't necessarily want to look at you because you're distracting me by making me look at you. And I want to listen to an audio book, and I want to understand it and try and be physically involved with what it is that I'm busy learning. When you get someone that's visual, they would want to maybe read it and really watch it and get involved. Now, I have to listen to something negative. It's really going to impact me far more. So if I'm listening to music, I'm going to be very aware of what the words of that music are, because if I'm listening to something that's very negative perpetually, I'm taking it in because I'm audio. If someone's very, very visual and they listen to negative stuff, they're not going to take it in as much as they're going to read it. So we need to be aware of what our representational system is and then apply that. And that leans heavily into the schooling system. The schooling system should be talking very much to the audio-visual kinesthetic representational system of children and not expecting a one-size-fits-all. It would change the lives of so many people. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. The app that you referred to earlier, Lazybones, I think you said it's called. Is that also a tool that people could use in this process to help them do that?
Absolutely. So my son designed and created Lazybones. He's the app developer, and it's got over 300,000 downloads. It's been app of the day. I've lost count of how many times all over the world. And the reason for that is it's incredibly easy to use. So what you do is you track all the habits you want to change. So let's say, for example, you did a vision board and you decide this is what I want my life to look like in 5 years' time. And then you take the visions that you've put together and you break those down into activities. So let's say, for example, in 5 years' time, I want to run a marathon. In order to run a marathon, what do I need to do? I need to eat healthy. I need to drink a lot of water. I need to exercise daily, etc., whatever the dynamics are. And then you have to start creating those habits. But how are you going to start creating habits if it's not normal for you right now? Because we then get into that old habit rebound and we go back to what we used to always do. And we'd stop training because it's cold maybe, or whatever the case might be. But if you are responsible to log your habit on a daily basis and you go in there and go, right, I'm drinking water 3 times a day at this amount of time in these increments, and I'm going to be exercising once a day, and whatever it might be. You go in and you preset all those habits in Lazybones, and then you tick them off as you go. And it sends you reminders. Don't forget to drink water. Don't forget to exercise, etc., etc. It can be about your thinking. I've decided to think positively, and every hour I want to have a positive thought, and then Lazybones reminds you every hour, have a positive thought. And then you can track your mood over a period of time and see how happy you were. And you can also track the amount of times you did the habit and the days that you weren't good. And you can see maybe a nice pattern emerging in your life that you can start seeing where you can start working on yourself.
All right, amazing. I'll put the name on the screen there for you. Is this available on all the platforms, or is it primarily on iOS? Where can you get it?
At the moment on iOS.
Okay, so if you're an Apple person, you're lucky, you can get Lazybones. If not, then sorry, you'll have to wait, or get an iPhone. That is probably the answer. It's also the right answer, in my opinion. But anyway, Apple is not sponsoring this, so I'll stop that immediately. All right, so then just, the power of positivity, which is actually what we want to talk about. So we focus so much on the negative. I want to get a little bit into the power of positivity. And then sort of the question that I've got is, when we have these positive thoughts, so how do we react to those? If we're reacting and having this physiological, obviously, sort of manifestation of negative thoughts and how we react to it and the impact that it has and how it just, accumulates over time if we keep on doing that, then does positive do exactly the opposite of that? Or how do we react to those positive thinking and those positive feelings that we can have?
Okay, so a very nice one. So the one thing I want to mention is that being human, we're never going to have that black or white. It's never going to be a definitive, I am a positive person, I am a negative person. There's always going to be that crossover and that gray area that comes into it. So I think the goal here is to be more positive than negative. If you can get to being positive 80 or 90% of your day, you've achieved an incredible achievement. So it's okay to sometimes be negative, and it's okay to sometimes have a bad thought or to dip down in your energy. It's how fast you bounce back from it. So there's something called RQ, which is recovery quotient. And a recovery quotient is how fast do you bounce back from being negative? Because negative stuff's going to happen and you're going to go through those things. And, we all hear about COVID and we go into lockdown, and some people have stayed negative throughout it and some people have bounced back. And when you stay in the negative space, you get into the victim mindset. But when you go into the positive space, you then start creating different hormones, different emotions, different energies, and it gives you the energy to get up and do something about it. You won't get stuck in apathy. And when we look at the way you feel, if you feel that there's a weight on your shoulders, it's a heavy feeling. And then when that problem goes away, suddenly you feel as light as a feather because your energy shifted. My question to you would be, when that energy got off, what got off? You felt an elephant was sitting on your chest or on your shoulders. But the energy is heavy. So we can deduce by that positive energy is light and negative energy is heavy. Negative energy holds you down and positive energy keeps you light. Now, in this time of lockdown, so it's been 2 months exactly for me since I've been home, and I've nearly finished writing my 3rd book. I'm 2/3 of the way through my final chapter. I've created an online course. I've started learning an exciting new aspect through the whole prefrontal cortex neuroscience and really incredibly interesting stuff. And I've created and done so many things in this time of lockdown because I've got the energy to do it because I'm more positive than negative. So you get more energy to do things and you have less self-judgment and less self-criticism. So the shift into a positive mindset helps you create a better life for yourself.
Yeah, that's so powerful, for lack of a better description there. And it's I think what I'm taking away from what you just said is that it's not about not being negative. It's about shifting the balance to positivity and not so much to negativity, so that you have more positivity than negativity, because we're human. You're going to experience good days and bad days. You're going to experience good seasons and bad seasons, and those things, there's things that's going to happen to you that you couldn't prevent or that you couldn't control. So we have to go through those things, but it's just having more positivity than you do not. So what is the difference then between positivity and optimism? There's been a lot of talk that I've seen from different people saying, positivity means that you are ignoring the bad stuff and you're just choosing to ignore it, versus optimistic is more about being hopeful and looking forward to things that will come and being that. And there's a real difference between the two. I would like to know what your view is, and then we can take it from there.
So I think positivity is learning to think more frequently in the neocortex and the prefrontal cortex and the areas of your brain which are more designed to see opportunities and to live a better life. And so being aware and acknowledging the fact that negative is there, and having the ability to rise above it, having the ability to deal with yourself, to deal with the negative emotions, not to push them away and ignore them. Just say, I acknowledge you, are aware of you, you exist, this exists, it's real. But you know what? I'm going to rise above this, and I'm going to do something that's different. So, for example, my business is client-facing. So I went into lockdown with a fully fledged client-facing business, and every single client canceled their event. I could have gone into negative and stayed there. I was aware of it. I was like, oops, okay, I've got to change this. So what did I do? Created an online course because I needed to shift. So my reality was, well, I can't coach people and I can't go and do these huge courses and speak to hundreds and thousands of people face to face. I need to do something different. So what did I do? I rose above it. The reality was there. I created a solution using my more positive part of my brain to find the way through it. And I suppose optimism helped me to create that, because I was optimistic, and then I thought people are going to want to buy my online course. And I had no reality to judge that with. So their optimism came in, but the positivity helped me and enabled me to think in the I can part of the brain and not get debilitated and, oh no, this is my reality. I have a client-facing business and I've got to go and get help. No, I've made a plan. Finishing my book, it's happening, it's all going out there, podcast is coming, this, that, the next thing. It's like an explosion of exciting alternative ways of generating income.
And it's also, I think it's also a case of that these things have always been in the back of your mind. You wanted to do it, and then I think you made the decision that this is the ideal opportune time to do it, and let's do it. To decide to do something and to actually do it is also, there's a massive difference between that, but let's not get into that space. Wasn't there a story about a coffee shop or something somewhere?
Yes. Well, this because you've got your coffee going on there. So I say to people, our conscious mind, I like to frame as a coffee shop. And in that is your reality. It's what you're aware of. Your subconscious mind has been there since the day you were born, and there's every single sight, color, sound, everything you've had, it lives in that subconscious. But it all can't come into your awareness in one go, because you would not be able to handle that. So we create what I call the coffee shop. And a lot of people don't have a right of admission reserved on that coffee shop, and they let anything in there. So what I'm going to say to you today, and what I'd like to leave you with, is in your conscious thoughts and your conscious mind, put a right of admission reserved and only allow experiences, people, thoughts, and information into that conscious mind of yours, into your coffee shop. If you vetted it and gone, yes, it's part of what I want my future to look like. And if you have to let it in and it's not something that you want in your life, have the awareness around it to just block and protect yourself and go, you know what, I don't really want this experience. It's happening. It's in my life. I'm not going to own this. I'm going to have RQ and rise above it.
Amazing stuff. Tanya, before I get into the questions and the comments, where can people get hold of you?
I'm very comfortable if they search me on LinkedIn and they reach out to me and direct mail me there. Otherwise, Tanya@tanyakunze.com is my website, and my email is info@tanyakunze.com.
Fantastic. I'll also put it onto the screen so people can grab it from there. And I'm going to leave it on there for a little bit. And and then also remember, you can get the app Lazybones. It's free to download. There is some pro features to it as well if you choose to subscribe to that. Really worth it. I had a look at it this morning. So something that I just definitely want to look at and see more about what that's about. So let us see quickly what people are saying and if they are asking any questions. Let me just say a lot of people saying good morning and hello. So let me just get past that. Good stuff. Alrighty, so yeah, we've got here. Okay, so Kobus said, looking forward to today. At the end of the day, we are all selling something. So when we spoke about selling, and even if it is only ourselves, you always have a product to sell, whether it is one specific thing or another thing, but we all need to convince somebody, even if it's just to sell somebody on a relationship with you, or it's getting somebody to just give you an opportunity, or, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, whatever value you're creating or delivering, you need to sell that. And as I said, whether that's a relationship or a book or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, people buy into what you are selling, and we've used that terminology. Buy into my concept, buy into my idea, buy into my personality. There's a whole host of aspects where you're literally saying it, but you're maybe not aware that you're really selling.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful that you bought into the show, Tanya. Thank you very much for that. Sandro, we've got Sandro on this morning. So Sandro was a guest in episode 54. So by the way, I sent out the links last night via WhatsApp. I'll send out the email today, and I'll also give the link tomorrow in tomorrow's episode where you can download everything that he promised. But it is available. I did send it out to my WhatsApp list already. But Sandro is saying, I don't know if you know Sandro, Tanya, but he said, bravo, these things need to be shared. Mental health is so important. So amazing. Thank you very much. Rudolph also went on to say, so good. Mindset is everything. Zeti is saying, thank you, Tanya and Francois. I love this. So there's a lot of good stuff. And it was Robin Williams. I didn't want to interrupt you when you said you can't remember. It was probably Robin Williams. So thank you, Stephen. Good stuff. So Justin is saying, exceptional. I've used NLP as part of my business from the first day of sales. All of the content feeds directly into what NLP has taught me. Great stuff. Gary Walker, here's a question. So are financial advisors not more susceptible with negativity due to dealings with client stresses and negativity? So this is an extremely good question in my mind. So where this comes from is that, so what Gary is asking is that, you work with clients who are losing their jobs. They are being retrenched left, right, and center, specifically at the moment, but also, just as the normal sort of part of what financial advisors do. And, that constant fear of negativity kind of thing, what impact does that have on your own thinking and your own thought patterns and that kind of thing? And how would you deal with that?
To you directly on that is that I work with a tremendous amount of financial advisors, actually. In fact, 4 of my clients are financial advisory organizations. And what often happens is that I'll actually spend 1 hour with each member of their team once a month, just to make sure that their mindset's in the right space to help them to think clearly and positively and to get past all the negative, because it is a negative space. And I do acknowledge that you're dealing with a huge amount of fear in that space, actually. So I think that, you really would need to focus heavily on trying to lift yourself out of those perpetual negative spaces that you'll find yourself in.
Yeah, thanks. So Carol is saying understanding human or hormone behavior and why people do the things they do is a remarkable skill to acquire. In endocrinology, anything with the ology at the back, I last did that in matric, so no, not for me. But I think understanding these things are extremely important. So this helps in both personal and professional relationships. So it's just a statement. Ian said, I cannot think of anything that is more appreciated or appropriate for us all. Thank you, Tanya. And Francois, thank you very much, Ian. It's been amazing to have you as part of this journey as well, Ian, by the way. So Denise says she agrees with Ian. Kobus says, brilliant session, Team Francois and Tanya, mind-boggling, even if it's on an empty stomach. He said earlier, there was another comment where he said, whoa, this is like hectic stuff on an empty stomach. Kukechi said, really loving this. Brilliant. I don't know who this is, but says, brilliant. Our thoughts create our reality.
Yes.
Yep. Priceless session. Thank you, Denise. We really appreciate it. A lot of people saying thank you and awesome and everything. Razan says also actionable. Then Tanya, you are such an inspiration to all women. Thank you for your bright light. Keep shining. Absolutely. I want to applaud you. I want to say really I'm so happy that I met you and that we were connected. So thank you, Kevin Hinton. I really appreciate it. Awesome. And Chart also says thank you so much. guys, I'm going to call it a day. Tanya, from my side, honestly, thank you so much for your time this morning. I mean, this is something we can make a full day of, like really keep people busy and minds boggling and all sorts of stuff. But let's not do that. I just want to say really heartfelt thank you from myself for your time and for agreeing to be on the show. It means a lot to me. And so I wish you all the best and good luck with your course and your book. I look forward to sort of getting a chance to read that when it comes out. And I'm wishing you just all the best.
Francois, thank you so much. And I'm going to gift you a free copy for being so wonderful this morning.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. I'm not going to say no. I'm not that kind of person. I learned to accept things. So thank you very much. I wish you a blissful day.